Farò un ringraziamento in italiano prima. Per me voi siete tutti delle facce nuove e io sono per voi una faccia nuova, quindi spero che il mio intervento, insomma, non deluda queste... Sì, così va bene? Perfetto. E quindi desidero non tradire le aspettative, visto che è, diciamo, la mia prima volta qui a questo evento. So, I'm sorry if my English could be a bit rusty, because this is the first event I made in English since a bit of time. So, as the title suggests, I will start with a structure. So, a solid trace in the ground. I'm an archaeologist, and I would say that archaeology used to challenge the operator with the unseen. So we are trained to see the unseen the most and understand the unseen through the materials, firstly. So I want to start with an event, with two events I prefer. So a moment, a battle, okay, a battle, the Battle of Chaeronea. So it's a really turning point in the way of conduct a battle, to conduct a war between the classical concept and the Hellenistic one. So soon enough we will see why Chaeronea is the starting moment. And another moment is the very instant with the sound of the door locked by the killer Perdiccas in Babylon, in the same room where Alexander the Great is laid, because this moment of rebellion between the ranks of the agama, of the phalanx and of the cavalry of the ex-Alexander's army is the very start, the moment that ignites a sort of long, constant period of conflict in all the Eastern Mediterranean. So why Athens? We will see. So this is an example of how is the scale of conflicts. So many men involved, a huge number. It means resources, it means recruitment basin, it means a lot more of weaponry, manpower, logistic, and of course reintegration capabilities. So this means how can react not a kingdom, not a territorial state, but a city-state, so only a city. We know actually that Thucydides says to us that Athens can field no more than around 10,000 hoplites in classical period. So this is a limit. How can survive a city facing an enemy like the Macedonian kingdom, like an Antigone kingdom, like a Ptolemy's kingdom? So this is truly the start. So if you go to Athens and you enter the agoraic space, you will see that you are between two main topographical points. On one side, you have the reconstruction of the Stuao Attalos II, and on the other side, a hill, the Kolonos Agoraios. On the top of the Kolonos Agoraios, there's a temple, one of the most beautiful temples, Doric temples, the well-preserved temple of Hephaestus, the Hephaesteion. But the problem is, all the people entering the Agora, everyone is catched by this site, not knowing, ignoring, that exactly on the side of this temple, there were an armory, a huge public structure we don't see. So this is the problem of the unseen. Nothing actually remains of the structure, but a trace on the ground. And around, I would say, no more than 10 foundation blocks, 5 of which are torn apart, upside down, because the Romans, during the Sulla siege of the 86, actually razed to the ground the structure. So it's not a long-lived structure. We will see soon enough. I want to just take a look with you to another of my projects. Understanding the defensive network of Attica, in my opinion, is the first step to understand why an armory in a city-state. Basically, it is a process. So it starts in the 4th century and is a long process, accelerated by the Battle of Chaeronea, of course, because the menace, the threat, is more solid in that moment. So we know that the 10 strategists of Athens began to have selected rules. 3 of them, territorial one, regional one. So we can say Athenians divided the territory in sectors of defense and selecting some headquarters. 3, except Athens, the capital: Eleusis, Rhamnus, and Sunion. Later on, Sunion, we have no longer epigraphical information, any kind of literary sources about Sunion surviving the last quarter of the 4th century. So it is no longer active after that date. So Eleusis and Rhamnus are 2 headquarters defending one side and the other of Attica. The main aspect I want you to take a look at is the more and more importance of the Hora, so the region, the importance of maintaining a line of defense outside the walls of the city of Athens. We know that Pericles used to leave all the space of Attica and just close everyone inside the city during the Peloponnesian War. This is not useful anymore, because the region must be defended when an enemy comes to. So we abandoned a more regional look to a more city look. So this is the place of the arsenal. Is a huge structure. So in the 30s, this structure was firstly identified as an arsenal because of the planimetry of the structure. One single entrance to make easy to be guarded, and of course the dimensions were useful to understand that it wasn't to be a private structure but a public one, and it was so near to a sacred area dedicated to Hephaestus. And this should not be surprising, because Hephaestus is actually the blacksmith of the gods, is the one who made out the weaponry of Achilles. So mythologically and realistically, Hephaestus is the god that protects the blacksmith. Blacksmiths are all around the site of the temple, so maybe are connected, these metallurgical activities, with the arsenal itself. So this is a very recent photograph of the site. You can see actually nothing, almost nothing. It seems like a garden more than an arsenal now. And there are many problems of chronology about the structure, and we will see why I am more convinced by the later one. So I want to dive deep in the topic because we have not much time. So, as I've already said, lots of metallurgical activities are all around the temple. So pits and furnace traces are all around the site. And right next to the retaining wall of the temple also. This is the condition of the site in the 30s, so between the 1936 and the 1937, the excavation was completed. And this again is the condition of the site today, you cannot enter inside the site. This is actually another problem. And this is a very good planimetry of the site. As you can see, we have an only entrance on the northwestern part of the perimeter. As you can see, there are many signs and numbers. Let's start with this one. In 1934, a couple of chambers were founded on the site. We are talking about a system of cisterns, so water cisterns. There are 3 water cisterns underneath the arsenal. This one is useful because it permits us, through the contents of the chambers, to actually try to understand the moment when the structure was built. So the northern chamber was closed before the beginning of the works. The other was used as a dump during the building process. And intriguing is the last 3 in scientific language, in archaeology, we say US stratigraphical units. The last 3 stratigraphical units are linked, connected with the Cremonidean War. And it's indeed intriguing that the most amount of pottery fragments inside this chamber are so similar, so we find comparison with a lots of fragments in another military emplacement on the coastline. And this place, named Koroni, was a forward operational base of Ptolemy II during the Cremonidean War, when the Egyptians sustained the war effort together with the Athenians against the Antigonids. So it's probable that this is the starting point of this structure. So the Cremonidean War is the beginning. This is an image, actually, of the wall of the arsenal and the southern chamber. The other 2 are long-lived, so they live on till the last moment of the structure. So they are closed, they are demolished, collapse, when the structure is raised by Sulla's legionaries. So it is intriguing indeed again that we have also, this is a plus, because 2 more cisterns are added by the Byzantines, but the structure was no longer used. And they added when the structure was used actually to just pick up material for other works, other buildings. So I wanted to connect one person and one resource. Water and oil are 2 resources important for storaging weaponry in ancient times. We have lots of water here. But where's the oil? We found lots of oleary amphoras on the slopes on the Colonos Agoraios. Who's the man in charge? I want to say again, we have lots of problems with this structure. I have lots of problems with this structure. I have no literary sources. I have no direct epigraphical sources. I have no archaeological sources. I have no actually archaeological materials connected directly with the aspect, with the aesthetic of this structure. Only the trace. But I was no man to surrender, so I found a connection with a key role in logistic. This Tamias, the treasurer of the military fund, was the responsible for oil. And it is said by this epigraphic source that the base, so the office of this man, was the arsenal. So this is a randomic source about the Tamias, just because we have this actual roll up and down on the history line of Athens, popping up and then suddenly shut down with no reason. So these are some examples of the materials inside the chambers. And again, I want to say I have still a problem with language, because actually in the sources we have no kind of word meaning arsenal, actually. So we know that Athens had a great fleet, and so we know also that the Piraeus was a fortified base, also on the ground and also for docks. So the Danish archaeologists worked a lot on the fortified docks of the Piraeus. And so we know we have two names for the place, the docks for naval units, and the storage for military nautical equipment. So we have two specific words for them, Neorion and Skeotheke. But we have only Hoplotheke, referring to some of, is the closest word to arsenal, to armory, but is not precise. So the problem is, the first parallel we have is a Skeotheke, not an arsenal, not an armory. This is the one of Philon. It is actually founded archaeologically, so we know the planimetry, we know the structure as it looked like, as you can see by the drawings. In this case, we have a two-entrance system, so from one side and on the other side. The other parallel, and this is more intriguing though, is Pergamon. So that's exactly the problem. So we have on one side a city-state with a democratic system, so with an hoplithic model. So the hoplites are made out of classes, of financial classes. So the state is not involved in the distribution of weaponry, so it doesn't need actually an arsenal, not an armory. But Pergamon is the capital of the Hellenistic kingdom, so does have lots of arsenals, an entire terrace of arsenals, 7 arsenals. This is intriguing because we have a so similar planimetry, and the chronology is also matching. We have at least 20 years earlier or later on the history line between one and another. The connection between the Pergamon state, the Pergamon crown, and Athens is very, very, very lined up, because we know that in the Agora, if we go to the Agora, the first thing, beautiful thing that we see is the Stoa of Attalus II right there. So again, these are some problems connected with the fact that a democratic system means that you are actually an hoplite or not, but when you are called to arm, you present yourself all by yourself in the Agora, armed. So no one else arm you, no one else give you the weaponry. This is a wider discussion, so I will go fast. This is the monument of the eponymous heroes, and this is the exact topographical spot where the hoplites meet each other when called to war. So they spontaneously go to the monument because they are called to war by the officers usually elected amongst the most seasoned and veterans experts of the city. So this is more or less archaeological things. These are two reading suggestions if you want to dive deep in processes and procedures. So departure, homecoming, and burial practices in Athens, connected, of course, with the democratic system. So again, where we can have a spot to storage weaponry before the arsenal? We don't know. So we know from the sources that once was used the Thessalian, and in another occasion, was used the Agraulus Alta. And the only one source we have talking about nearby agora of the Oplotheke is this one. So a storage of weaponry probably was near the Stuatu Romaiu. Then I will fasten my presentation. So I want to go straight ahead how this arsenal works. So how the arsenal distributes the weaponry. So we know in 1971 in this deposit, the J51, 9 tokens, lead tokens, was found. 6 years later, the first publication made out an hypothesis of an issue and return system. So you go to the arsenal with tokens, and the arsenal gives you what you required. So I will go fast as I can. Tokens were widely used for almost anything in military procedures in Athens since the very start. So we have materials connected with recruitment, with service. So we have other cases as these clay tokens, border commander of Xenocles, were used like passports for messengers connecting defensive positions to headquarters. So it's widely used as a system. So we cannot exclude this way. The problem, they are 9. Only 9 in a city. In an entire city? It could be, yes, it could be, because mistakes were made. So in the Numismatic Museum of Athens, lots of tokens were mistaken. So they were not actually coins. They were out of the circulation because they are not in bronze, not in silver, not in gold. They are in lead. So they are not coins. And we found lots of them. Weaponry is a vast, we have a vast kind of weaponry here. So thureos, aspis, we have a linothorax, we have Attic helmets, we have greaves, we have also composite bows. In this case, I want to fasten again. We can see 2 letters, the same semantic root of demis. So it's connected with something public. Again, this is a specific building, but urban landscape reflects the intents of a community. So we can see its connection with the expansion of the recruitment pool, the opening of the political service to non-relevant democratic classes, a fabric reform, reorganization of the regional defensive work, consequent reformulation of the chain of command, and multifunctional role of the treasurer of the military fund. So this is it. I wanted to, just because of the time. I don't want to bother you any longer. Okay, so basically, I wanted to say that, of course, the presence of the arsenal is a part of the process, as I've already said at the beginning. So we have a city that wage war and defend itself against the Hellenistic kingdoms, and of course, Athenians wanted new allies, as we saw with the Ptolemy's kingdom, and so we have a lot of sites on the coastline. So Koroni is not the only one. We have at least 4 of them. We have, of course, the opening of the political service to non-relevant democratic classes, thanks to the orphans. So the city pays out the orphans, the war orphans, with an amount of coins to train and to buy the panoply. So even the Thetis, who can die in the fleet, and they are not of the upper classes, can then, at the tragic moment of the death of the father, have access to the phalanx. So a wider number of hoplites are at disposal now. So it's a more complex process than it seems. This is only the starting phase, the starting point, and the starting place, the arsenal. Thank you.